Right, my name's Peter Hayward. I'm here at International Quilt Festival in Houston, and this is my quilt called Lone Star Explores Space. And my idea was basically to take the Lone Star pattern, traditional pattern, and to use color and size gradation to give an optical illusion that some things were further away from you and others were nearer. So if you look at the areas here where there are quite a lot of dark shapes, that looks a great deal further away than these larger areas where the color is brighter. And perhaps more spectacularly, you can see it here on these pyramids where you've got the dark going up and getting bigger to really quite big light areas and then evening off. So you feel that those are near, as opposed to these pyramids here, which yes, get nearer to you, but then suddenly give up and go back away from you down into some really quite dark and deep, I hope, areas here. And the reason I keep referring to areas rather than patches or pieces is because actually this quilt is not pieced. It's interwoven. So these are strips of fabric interwoven with other strips. And the way I make the strips is to take interfacing and fuse the fabric that I want onto that interfacing and turn both edges, because I don't want raw edges getting in the way. And then I simply have to interweave them to give the effect of a large number of little pieces when actually there aren't. The complication here is because inherently the Lone Star pattern keeps changing direction. I was unable to use a technique I used last year with a similar type of quilt, where I simply had very long strips that didn't change direction at all and went from a border to another border. This time, because of all of these change of directions, I have had to use L-shaped strips. So you can see here that this blue is actually joined to that, and this green, for example, goes all the way through. And the interweaving comes from other L-shaped pieces, the black ones, which go like that, okay? So in this way, the pattern is put together and you get all of the changes of direction that I was hoping to achieve. And another illusion that comes out here is that here you think that this tube is coming up at you and then is covered with the bright orange cover piece, whereas here this tube appears to be hollow and you're disappearing back into it again. Another feature which I wanted to try to play with a bit was in these corner pieces, where actually the shape of the strips here and here are identical. So if you look at these center four areas, they are absolutely identical. The only reason that this appears as a cross and this as a sphere is because these diagonal pieces are pale, whereas here they're dark. So the eye says, this is a sphere, but that's a cross. I did a minimal amount of quilting, just a little bit of hand quilting here to accentuate the stars and the crosses, but really with this type of quilt I feel that I don't want to put too much emphasis on that side of it. I want the picture to leap out on its own. So the reason you see very few quilting stitches is because really the quilting is black on black and it's to hold the sandwich together. So I started this, was 2 months in the planning phase before I cut any fabric at all. I have a very 20th century approach to this, and I actually photocopy the fabrics. I cut up the photocopies, I stick them together, decide whether I'm getting the effect I want or not, trial and error, no, that doesn't work, do something else, and so on. So that's why it takes 2 months. But I have to say I love those 2 months. And I was 5 months in the actually putting together. So basically start to finish, 7 months, and there it is.